winning, you just resign from the service. When you lose, you continue to be with us. He explained. Helen, who do you pitch and toss? Will you take it? If you win, you go. If you lose, you stay. So do you go and contest and deliberately lose?
So that you stay?
So that you stay, or do you go and win and then you leave?
I mean, what is the reason for which you are contesting? What is it? What is your life's passion? What is it that you are looking to do? Are you ready to serve? Then you know what the rules are. You win, you forfeit that position, because now you have a big responsibility. And these, I like what the NCC is also saying, breaking down what it is that the district level elections are all about, and making the distinction between MPs, what the MPs do, and what happens on the district assembly level,
right?
So that people know exactly. Actually, sometimes we don't even know who we are holding accountable, because we don't know what the distinctions are, and so very important.
We know. I mean, I've been raising that question and concern over and over again, that look, if your road is bad, like what we have, we just showed you from Nungwa, the Crow area, it's close to the assembly. That's the assembly's job. It's not the MP's job. But you would find that they would go and be looking for the MP to say, MP about fix work by Branabe. I mean, that's not the MP's job. But it's also because the MPs put themselves in that line of fire.
That's
because
right.
they tell the people all manner of things, when they when they want to contest for some of these things. Quickly, the registration of voters happened on the press release on registration exam. Just running you through what the Electoral Commission of Ghana has been doing for this year alone regarding the district level elections. 11 September 2023, press release on registration exercise. 28 August, October 2023, publicity on registration exercise. Between 12 September and 2nd October, registration of voters happened, and I'm sure that the new voters, have their cards. 26th of September, briefing on swearing in of district registration review committee members. On the 3rd of October to the 9th of October, transfer of votes were made possible. On the 3rd of October 2023, commencement of placement of lost voter ID cards. On the 3rd of October to the 9th of October 2023, sittings of district registration review committees. And then on the 18th of October, 31st of October 2023, duplication and adjudication exercise. So that has been happening, and we do know that we're ready to go now to the polls on the 19th of December. That's next week, to go and also cast our votes. Well, let's go on to the phone line and speak with an official of the CODEO. We'll speak to an official of CODEO, advisory board member, Alexander William Bankole. He joins us now. Good morning, sir. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, good morning.
Now,
Thanks for the opportunity.
There have been calls for active participation in the local level elections because, as the minister responsible for that sector has said, less than 40% participation is not too good. What can we do to get people to be interested in such local level elections from your experience as election observers over the years?
Yeah, thank you once more, and good morning to your listeners as well as those on radio and online. So basically, first and foremost, I think Ghana has been at this in particular local level elections from about 1988 in recent history till now. And at the local level elections, that's the district assembly elections, it is expected that we would elect our leaders at the assembly, so the assembly representative for the electoral area, as well as the members of the unit committee. Now, it is essential to indicate that this is actually the base of development. So no matter where you live in an electoral area, you live in a district.
Right.
You do not simply live at the national level. Every individual in Ghana exists within the local area. Now, when you check the records so far, and you analyze the data, you do realize that over the years we have actually been doing, not pretty much well
Mm-hmm.
at the local level with regards to our elections. So beyond the 1988, where we saw in excess of 40% voter turnout, which is in sharp contradiction to what we see at the national general election, where even if we have about 68% turnout, then it is low for us. We realize that indeed we do not seem to be that enthused about participating in the local level elections as Ghanaians. And the irony of the matter, like I tried to point out earlier on, is this is the base of the, if you need this development in your locality,
Right.
the first point of contact is supposed to be your assembly member representatives and the unit committee members. They are the days of determining the development you have. Now, again, when you check the data, you do realize that though we have generally had low participation of citizens, the participation has been lower in the urban centers than in our rural areas. In the rural areas, you find people turning out to vote better than, in the urban centers.
That's correct.
So we are happy that we've had, some amount of sensitization ongoing on the media landscape, trying to encourage people to vote. We would urge those, particularly at the urban centers or those located within the urban areas, Greater Accra, the Accra, the respective municipalities and districts of Greater Accra, including Tema and its environs, Accra Metro and its environs, and the other urban areas in Tamale, in Sunyani, and all the other Kisima, all those other areas, would encourage those citizens in the urban centers, especially, to recognize the fact that it is not enough to push national level developmental agenda and forget your local level developmental agenda.
Right.
Now, how your local level, how your electoral area gets developed, who influences development at your local level, that's from who your assembly representative is. A lot of people have actually concentrated on, one, their members of parliament, and then the respective sector ministers. These individuals control national level resources. We complain about an imbalance in the manner Ghana is actually developing, where even in our communities, you will be there and then you say, you see some roads being developed, and where it matters most to you in the community, that road is not being developed. How can you change that? You can change that by influencing who actually represents you at assembly level and who represents you on the unit committee. That is why we must then show interest in actually who are those contestants and determine who actually gets to be elected. Then we can sit and have a conversation.
I'm looking at part 5 of the nomination form. It says name, voter ID number, sex, date of birth, age, place of birth, hometown, district, current residential address, telephone number, highest education qualification, present or last employer, position, profession, marital status, signature, thumbprint of candidate. What's striking here is that even for members of parliament, the highest educational qualification may not be sought. And I've seen the advertorials or the posters where the candidates for this local level election have their highest educational qualification out there. Should it be one of the considerations that the electorate should look at, that who is representing us? Is he well educated to sit in our local parliament, as it's called, to take the best decisions in our interest?
Yeah, so in fact, in an attempt to answer your question, let me narrate this. So I have a colleague that I speak to on the side regarding the determination of who our MMDCs, for instance, should be. And we had this conversation during 2019 when we were discussing whether or not we should elect our MMDCs. Now, at the time, the idea that was discussed was the need to ensure that we do have very highly qualified professionals actually manning the respective assembly areas. And from these, we could even determine who our MMDCs should be. So yes, it is important that you pay attention to the educational qualification on the of the individual. Now, I think that this should be done in my personal view. This should be done within context. Educational qualification is not just to check your certification, but it is actually intended to check your level of experience and exposure so far as development is concerned. You do not necessarily need a second or third degree or even a first degree to appreciate what development is per se. So as we check for these levels of qualification, if the idea is actually to be able to interrogate the contestant to ascertain their level of exposure to developing an idea that they have so far as development is concerned, then yes, I would always vote for it. Some of these qualifications remaining on the form. But if we would simply reduce it to whether or not you have a first degree or a second degree, and whether or not that first degree or second degree influences your knowledge with regard to development or not, then I would say it is not necessary.
Great. Now you tell me quickly, Bankole. For example, this low participation. We all know the arguments that have been brought forward to the extent that there's partisanship there, even though not formalized at the local level. Do you get a sense that if we inject partisanship into the local level elections, it will perhaps draw out a lot more people to participate?
I think that on that subject matter, the jury is still out there on the matter, simply because, yes, we have indicated that when you look at how actively we get involved with the parliamentary level election, it is simply because you have the political party machinery engaged to whip up, the enthusiasm and participation of citizens, at the respective levels to get involved. For that reason, if we were to have political parties actually participate in the assembly election, you would get these political machineries to be activated, and then they will be able to whip up, the sentiments, enthusiasm, and passion of our local people to participate. That is one school of thought. However, when you look at what the Article 55 of the 19th Constitution sought to do, it was also to ensure that we do not actually necessarily politicize our local level governance. And I think that given the fact that, in Ghana currently, we are running, so far as the political party system is concerned, we have agreed informally to a binary system where you are either here or there. When you seek to reduce the participation in local level governance to that same, or you subject it to that same binary system, what you also end up then doing is taking away individuals who would want to refuse to belong to any of those sides. So,
but then that was the basis for the withdrawal of the bill originally meant for Parliament to have us elect our own MMDCs. Remember that it was a campaign promise by the Akufo-Addo led NPP at the time that in 2 years, that's 2018, after winning the elections in 2016, we were going to have an opportunity to elect our own MMDCs. We were far advanced until that politics conversation came in, and then the president asked that Haji Ali Mahama withdraw that bill from Parliament. Is it a good time to want to bring it back for us to determine who becomes our MMDC and for us to hold them accountable and for them to deliver the public good onto us?
Okay, so I think that we want, whether or not we actually must be voting for our MMDC is not a doubt currently in this country, from the discussions we've held since 2018, 2019. From all sides, we have agreed that we want to vote for MMDCs, and we feel that by voting for our MMDCs, for instance, it will make the MMDCs more accountable to the people at the local level rather than more accountable to the national authority, that is the appointing individual who is the president, as we currently have it. The subject matter or the bone of contention has been whether or not we should vote for them based on party line or simply vote for them based on who they are as individuals. And that is what I was actually speaking to explain earlier on. That bone of contention still exists. There are still individuals that think that we should vote for them based on party lines, based on the political party's ability to execute the political machinery, to whip up sentiments, passions, and enthusiasm for citizens to participate in elections like we see in the national general election. There are other schools of thought who still think that we must not politicize the local level elections. We must not limit it.
What does Codeo think? What does Codeo say?
Well, I think Codeo has contributed to the discussion over the period, and we have indicated over the period that we see glimpses of political party participation in the local level elections informally as we currently have it. But the decision is still for Ghanaians to take. Whichever way that Ghanaians decide, we are aware of both realities. So once Ghanaians decide on which way we want to go, we think that is what the country should do.
What advice do you have for Ghanaians in terms of choice? Should they go the partisan way because it's already happening, whether you like it or not? And you go around the communities, you see the posters of these wannabe assemblymen or unit committee members and what have you, and you can clearly tell from the colors that they have chosen where they belong, either to the NPP side or the NDC side or which other political party. And then there are those who also insist that, well, there's no politicization because it has not been formalized yet. What advice does Codeo have for Ghanaians if this matter ever comes up again? What would you advise?
I think that first and foremost, the advice will be for the discussions to go on. But given the interest Ghanaians demonstrated in 2019 regarding the need for us to have elections conducted for our MMDCs, we should bring that discussion back, on board. And then once we are having that discussion, I think that generally we should be allowed as individual citizens to take a decision. Just like we decided as a people on having the 1992 Constitution. We should be giving the opportunity as citizens to decide whether or not we really want to vote for MMDCs and whether or not it should be on political party basis. That is what Codeo would advise. Ghanaians want the opportunity to be able to make a determination on that matter.
Bankole, I thank you very much indeed for your time. And Bankole is an advisory member of the Coalition of Democratic Election Observers, CODEO, joining us here on Sunrise on 3FM 92.7, your urban lifestyle radio here on 3FM 92.7. My name is Johnny Zellen. What do you say? Election of the MMDCs?
Yes. Actually, so Miss Kathleen Addy of the NCCE in that press conference actually said, and I'm quoting her here, it's captured in the newspapers this morning. She says it will get to a point where we will be electing metropolitan, municipal, and district chief executives, MMDCEs, which will help in the turnouts that we see at the district level elections. But for the meantime, before we get there, we are still electing assembly and units committee members who are living in the communities with us. We have to hold them accountable and we have to let them work. It took the president a while. What is it? Some 8 or 9 months.
9 months.
9 months,
yeah,
actually.
In 2021.
Yes.
To give us MMDCs.
To give us MMDCEs. I don't know if going on the election line or voting them in would speed up that process, because for those 9 months, that means that the work that they are mandated to do was not ongoing.
Yes.
And it's a big task indeed.
What that meant was that the assemblies could not take any major policy decisions because the local assemblies are structured in such a way that the ESCO, just like we have in a central governance, I mean, the ESCO with its cabinet, if you will, that's the MC, MCD, and all that the executive committee would formulate their plans and put it together. And then they will bring it to the assembly, which has a presiding member elected from amongst themselves, which serves as their own parliament, right? So from the executive, now it comes to their parliament, and then they will decide on it, and then all of that. Within that period, if you did not have an MMDC or a DC or MC, what it meant is that the ESCO couldn't sit to formulate any idea and say this is our plan, and then to forward it to the the district assembly for them to also endorse or reject or add and subtract, So for 9 months there was that lacuna, and that's why I said that within that 9 months, that was what we saw Honorable Henry Quartey going around crisscrossing into various assemblies and break this down, cut this down. These days you don't see him again, because if he wants to step into somebody's jurisdiction, the person will ask, boss,
of course,
I am here.
So I'm in charge.
What are you coming to do here? So that unnecessary 9 months wait was first of all illegal, because I've read Act 936 cover to cover, and the president as a lawyer was lawless at that time, because what he did was unlawful. And they told us that they had set up a tripartite committee, right? That the Dan Botwe was leading the committee.
Right.
They were vetting the people.
That's right.
The party people had vetted them. They had come to the Jubilee House to be vetted. There was a whole report that recommended people. For example, in the Greater Accra region, Accra Metropolitan Assembly, the committee, Dan Botwe's committee, recommended that Ajay Sowa should be retained. She was not retained. He was not retained. It was rather replaced with Elizabeth Kwacho Saki. What do we see? I mean, how vibrant is the AMA as we speak? So we wasted 9 months of our time, 9 months of doing nothing, 9 months of shutting down the local governance system, because, again, we had centralized everything. And for me, I'll let it go into the issues of education right now.
Yeah.
The NDC is a socialist party. So you would expect that they would be the people who would be interested in centralizing everything. The NPP is supposed to be a capitalist, party of ideology, empowering individuals to rise and all of that. But if you look at the modus operandi of the NPP, they rather are centralizing a lot of things. For example, this whole vetting thing that was centralized. Could the vetting of these MMDCs have not been done locally? In the various assemblies for you to have, council of elders in the assembly, whatever it is, local government experts and all of that, constitute a small vetting committee to say, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, you are interested in this MMDC job, come sit before us, let's vet you, and out of it we will then determine that you go and put yourself up and let the assembly either reject or endorse you. But we decided to centralize everything, so people had to travel from Carrier and Bolga and Golu and Tumu and all of that.
It's a big problem. It's a big problem.
So the whole point is to decentralize and to have the development taken to the doorstep of the people. But then here we are centralizing every single thing.
It causes too
Every
much
single thing.
too much delay. It's a waste of our resources as well. I know Kosami will be eagerly listening to this conversation because he's been driving home that message of decentralization.
And if we decentralize properly, we won't have a problem. If we decentralize properly, by not centralizing the distribution of food, it has to be brought to Accra for Accra to now distribute it to the schools. We won't be talking about exercise books not being in the schools.
That's right.
Because if the exercise books were being manufactured in Kumasi and they are supposed to take it to Kumasi High, what's the distance between Kumasi's main town and Kumasi High around our inside estate there? What's the distance? As opposed to having it sitting here in Accra and then now having to spend 4 hours, 5 hours, fuel, time, energy to take it to Kumasi High. So we speak about decentralization, and I think we usually gloss over it because we do not respect the people who play within the local government space.
I agree with you.
We think that it's just, the way they are a common assemblyman, but the role that they play.
It's very true because that's how they are perceived. Oh, this is just
an ordinary assemblyman,
just an assemblyman. But their responsibilities are enormous, and when we put it into context as to what power they actually wield, so we'll talk about the distinction even from the MP. Your MP is not who you are supposed to go and judge for your rules. But I understand that because they make these promises, the attention is on them. But they also have to be letting us know who we need to speak to empower. We need to empower. And decentralize.
And there are calls being made for people to turn out. I wish we could raise the NCC on the phone line and ask the NCC a question or two.
Well, they say, according to this new story, that to spark awareness, they have jingles on different platforms.
We don't have a jingle here.
I was thinking I've not heard one on our platform.
We don't have an NCC jingle on TV3.
Yes.
I've not seen it.
I've not seen or heard that either.
And TV3 is number one. So we're told that the NCC will join us in a bit, but it won't stop us from asking our questions. Yes, we must ask the NCC questions.
Although they say they've been in the lorry parks, they've been in the markets to engage the citizenry and also places of worship.
I take that with a pinch of salt.
Why is that, Johnny?
Because the NCC is almost beginning to look like the Electoral Commission. They go to sleep after the elections, come up awake a few weeks to the elections, and that's been the cycle.
It's a money issue, Johnny.
Well, if you want people to understand something and participate and co-produce the results you're looking for, you don't just engage them over a very short period.
Right.
You engage them over time. You educate them over time. You inform them over time. And then you let them be awake over time. That's the only way that they can know that this is right and this is wrong.
That's right.
On a daily basis on Johnny's Bite, what I do is to encourage citizens to ask questions. So now if you go on social media and the rest, you see people are using their platform to ask questions. There are a lot more citizen journalists who are coming up.
That's
they see
true.
this happening, there.
They don't just accept it as fact.
It was in the past, not so long ago, even for those of us in mainstream media, when you started talking, they say, shut up, keep quiet. We're fixing it. So that pushback from government and the authorities, have you seen that it's toned down?
It's toned down.
Because some of us decided not to give up. And some of us decided that no matter the risk, we're still going to push. And today, people are able to speak up. When we activate the phone lines, you hear what people speak up, and they are not afraid to mention names and places and what's happening here and there. And they say, I saw it myself.
That is very true, Johnny. I've seen it in real time, what you are saying.
Real time.
The empowerment of the citizenry by watching things like Johnny's Bite, because I'm watching Johnny and he's fearless in his delivery. He's asking the questions. He said, I want to know the facts.
Finished.
People follow suit, and you go on social media and they no longer accept it. The government says, we've created so and so and so. They say, show us.
Show us the work.
Show us.
Where?
Where?
So the NCC can do better. I appreciate the fact that maybe they have budgetary constraints and all of that. They are not giving the monies that they're supposed to be giving, even though they are not a profit-making organization. But clearly, there's a lot more. If NCC comes to knock on our door to say, way before this election, to say, look, we want some time to do some public education, I doubt we would say no to the NCC.
No,
I doubt we would
wouldn't
say no to the Electoral Commission. And my approach to communication, particularly as a development communication expert, a PR expert, and a journalist, is not to wait until the matter becomes hydra-headed before you start talking about it. You start talking about the issues, right from the get-go, so that by the time the matter takes full shape, everybody knows what role they are playing and where they position themselves and how they will help the role or the agenda or the goal to be furthered. You cannot just wake up 3-4 weeks, a month or two before the elections to say you are doing voter education. What were you doing in 2021? What were you doing in 2022? What were you doing in 2023? The whole of it until now, because we knew right from the get-go, after voting in 2019 in the last district level elections, that we were going to vote again in 2023.
That's right.
And even some of the aspirants have had cause to complain about the fact that, their tenure had not ended. And yet the elections of those who will replace them is going to happen.
That's right.
I mean, ideally, their tenure should run out or almost run out, and then the elections are held. Because once the elections are held, the handing over has to be done.
That's correct.
So in the national scheme of things, when elections are held on the 7th, and then you take time, there's a transition process and period until the 7th of January when the new president and the government is sworn in. It doesn't happen like that on the local level. So you cannot push forward theirs, because their inauguration ceremony is not as elaborate as what is done on the national scale.
That's right.
So the NCC has a lot of work to do. And this will be a litmus test and a dress rehearsal for 2024. How are they going to go about the voter education? And people are also watching the Electoral Commission, because they're supposed to be working hand in hand.
That's right.
And for example, they talk about new voters, people who just turned 18, who may be in secondary school or maybe in universities. Schools were going to reopen. The education minister was being told to consider the date for reopening.
Yeah.
He didn't listen. In fact, it took the threat from the Speaker of Parliament to say he will be put before the Privileges Committee before he appeared in Parliament. Meanwhile, he is a member of Parliament for Bosomtwe, and his workplace is Parliament. And the Speaker of Parliament wanted his attention and consideration on the matter, and it wasn't happening until the Speaker says, if you don't appear, I will put you before the Privileges Committee. And he knows the effect of that, and he appeared. Now, the children who will queue out of excitement, one, and also as part of their civic responsibility to the Republic of Ghana, to say we want to vote because we want to also experience how it feels like to vote the very first time, are in school. Do you expect them to leave school to come and queue and vote? On whose transport? So sometimes when we're doing these things, we need to be very measured in the way we go about these things. We cannot be working as if we're working on an island.
That's right.
And on our own, just by ourselves, all by ourselves. We're working with people. Now you are reaching out to the media and other organizations to trumpet this. But when the media and other organizations were also telling you things that you ought to look out for and watch so that it will help your job, did you listen to them? So will it be fair for the media not to listen to you?
But Johnny, what about the budgetary constraints that the NCC is always drumming home to us? They say they are just under-resourced.
I have just said to you, if NCC, Kathleen Addy and all their team, and Kuma, everybody there at NCC walk in here to say, look, we want to use the next month to do some voter education. So give us some airtime, we beg you.
Some creativity is needed to advance their work, you say?
I know that the NCC makes calls to people to say, Johnny is talking about this matter, please talk to him, let him tone down. Yes. When I spoke about the NCC's, they are tier 2, tier 3. I know people who were called. Do you understand?
You're biting too hard.
Well, but I was speaking about the truth. I was speaking the truth. Monies that were being deducted from them, and it was not going for their benefit. They couldn't see it. So I had to talk about it. I know people who were called outside his office and the rest. So if the NCC walks in to say, we want some time to do voter education or public education or civic education, will we say no?
Our doors are open.
I doubt we would say no. In fact, I wouldn't say no. I'm speaking for myself. I wouldn't say no. I doubt you would say no. So when we always use this, what do you call it? Budgetary thing.
Yeah.
So suddenly the budgetary thing went away, and now media houses are giving NCC a platform to speak. Because
in the past, I think they've had donor support from other countries to enable them to educate us on what's going on in our country. I don't know if that's still forthcoming or not.
Must it actually be donor support? The state of Ghana, must it take donors who are not Ghanaians, who also have allegiance to their sovereignty, to be providing us money to talk to ourselves about our country and what we need to do as good citizens, our rights and responsibilities in order for our country to be the best that we can ever think of in the continent called Africa? Should we not have a decent budget that is regular for us to educate our people so that they know what is right from wrong? Must it take Obroni to give us money? Then how are we self-sustainable? How are we independent? How are we capable of managing our own affairs? That's a failure on our part.
Pertinent questions.
You give birth to your children and you expect your next door neighbor to take care of your children. You are not a serious parent. You are a joker. And we've been playing jokes with this civic education thing. We always think that civic education is all about politics and current affairs and, voting and all of that. Civic education goes beyond that. We always are interested in, we get to a place, somebody is doing something right, something wrong, right? Maybe defacing a wall or peeing on the wrong side or parked on the wrong side. And then you say, Charlie, the thing they do, if they catch you, you are there.
You can provide that education.
You can say, boss, stop.
Don't do that.
But you say, Charlie, the thing they do, if they catch you, you have taken yourself out of the situation, out of the whole equation, and you are saying, if they catch you, who is the day who will come and catch the person? It is civic education. Once people know and understand this, we will all be on the right path, because then we'll be each other's keeper, and we will be looking over our shoulders to say that, hey, if I do the wrong thing, Helen is there, or Sixtus is there, or Janet is there, or Amaka is there, or Abiam is there, they would say it. Yeah. But we always say the thing they do if they catch you.
If they catch you. Because I think for government,
it's a civic education.
It's important for government to resource the NCC adequately, because we know that a more knowledgeable society is a more powerful society.
Brilliant.
Is that the reason why maybe government would be reluctant? Does government not want us to be knowledgeable and powerful?
I agree with you 100%. And you see, if you look at the electoral record since 1992, it has always been NDC, NPP.
That's right.
Put together the results of all the other parties. I don't want to call them smaller parties, but other parties. And you realize that the percentage you make is nothing to write home about. And NDC knows this, NPP knows it. So perpetually, they have decided to shroud everything in some form of secrecy, so that people don't even know what their rights are. People don't know what their responsibilities are. For example, somebody is taking over your land, and then you get a letter from the Attorney General saying that you have been given an ejection notice. Is the Attorney General supposed to be ejecting you, or is the court supposed to be the one ejecting you? It is the court.
That's right.
So if you don't know your rights, because the letter has been written on the letterhead of the Attorney General's department, signed by the Attorney General, you'll be scared.
Yeah, you panic.
Attorney General has written, but is the Attorney General supposed to be ejecting people? He's not supposed to be ejecting people. If there's an issue with the land and the Attorney General thinks that there's a problem, reports to the police, and then they pick up the matter goes to court. You have your say, I have my say. The judge determines who is right, who is wrong, put it in a judgment and reads it out, and then you go and enforce the judgment. It doesn't take, or you have come to borrow money from you. I have not paid for the money. Then you go and call the police, and the police come, and the police is suddenly a debt collector. It is the police jobs to collect debts.
Absolutely.
It is not their job. When people know what their roles and rights are and their responsibilities are, we will do better.
That's right.
A lot of people are walking around town, and sometimes people call me and say, somebody beat my son in school, my son is hurt. A teacher beat my son in school, so talk about it on Johnny. I say, I don't need to talk about this. This is a police issue.
Yeah.
Take it to the police and let the police deal with the matter that he has assaulted a minor. A teacher has beat up a minor and hurt the minor. There are laws there. He will be picked up, granted bail after being charged, and then the matter will go to court because he has committed a crime against the state, not against Johnny Hughes on Johnny's Bite.
That's right.
When we make people understand their role, we will be fine.
Especially when it comes to being on the road, you're stopped by a police. I don't even know if we're all aware that there are certain ranks that cannot even demand certain things of you.
If the person is not an inspector.
There you go. And so, like I said, the more knowledgeable a society, the more powerful a society. That means that the NCC's role is not one that we can discount at all. But for many people, they don't even know that the NCC exists. They don't know what their role is. They don't know what they are mandated to do. They just have no concept of that of that part of governance where you are supposed to resource the relevant bodies to educate your people. It's government's responsibility to make sure that you and I know as we walk around, as we drive, as we interact with authority, what our roles are, what our responsibilities are, and also the responsibilities of those in authority, because it goes two ways. It goes both ways. It's not just the citizenry that have roles to perform. Government has serious roles to perform, and if they are slacking or lacking in any department, if you are knowledgeable, you have the information, you can take them to task. And the role of the NCC cannot be discounted.
It cannot be discounted indeed. I am just now going on to the official page of the NCC on Facebook. Now, the official page of the NCC on Facebook has 135,000 likes, has 150,000 followers. And the last time the NCC posted something on their page was this morning, the 14th of December.
Lovely.
10 hours ago, they posted something again because the boss, Kathleen Ade, was on another network. And that's what I'm just saying. That, look, if we, for example, had the NCC encourage civic clubs in every single school, it won't cost a thing to have a civic club and to have a teacher say you are in charge of civic club after 30 years of practicing. It won't cost anything. The children know, they learn, they understand what's going on. It won't cost a thing.
And even now that you're even talking about social media, we know how powerful it is. We're moving into the digitalization era, or we're firmly in the throes of a digitalization era. You can use social media.
If you have 150,000 people following you,
yes,
that's good, because 150,000 people then also have people who are connected to them and them and them and them. So it's a multiples of that number. We all can do our part.
That's right.
But it takes leadership to also guide us into the realms that we want to get to. If you see somebody doing something bad, and I'm repeating this, and you say, "Oh, Charlie, the thing they do, if they catch you, who go catch them? It no be you.
You too, you can catch them.
If I say, oh my guy, what did they do there? Where they pays for it? No good. Maybe I wouldn't say in the end yet. Where you're wooing is not good. But if you are not, Charlie, it's a problem. Anyway, here the president. On the 1992 Constitution, the pursuance of a national consensus on the election of MMDCs. Remember, it was a campaign promise in 2016. And then it said by 2018, we're going to have a chance to elect our own MMDCs. Then when the matter came, there was a controversy about Article 2431, and then also Article 55.3, which is an entrenched clause which required a referendum as to whether to inject politics into it or not. That the argument was that in opposition, President Akufo-Addo promised that we're going to elect our MMDCs. He didn't say we're going to do it on a partisan level. So Article 2431, which could just be amended in Parliament without a referendum, all right, because it's not an entrenched position or provision of the Constitution, could have been done. so that we can just go on with the election of our MMDCs, at least for the first time in 2019. And then we would have learned lessons from that. And then based on that, we can make a new proposal to say, okay, we have tried the general one. Now, can we also try the political one of having a politics, laced with these local assembly elections, and then see how that also works? But we haven't even tried the general one. We haven't even attempted to amend Article 2431, which gives the president the power to nominate somebody to be endorsed by the assembly. Straight away, we are moving to trying to put NDC and MPP into it. And my problem is that if we try to polarize everything right from the top, NDC here, MPP here, NDC here, MPP here, a matter comes, it's a national issue, NDC is here, MPP is here, and we take that down to the local level, we will be in trouble.
That's right, I agree with that.
We will be in trouble because can you imagine that we go on a partisan line and elect an MMDC who is NDC, and then a member of parliament who is NPP? And they will not agree. And we have seen that happening in most places.
I was going to say that's actually what goes on these days.
If your party is not in power,
your
party is not in power, there's no development that comes to your area, and it's sad.
When we go into the communities and we engage with the different actors there, we see it play out there. Oh, this one said this. So there's a common goal, but it never gets executed because everybody wants to do it their way and they want to take the credit for it. Yes. I did this here. I did that here. But we're doing it for the community, for the constituents, for the area. Why?
So now the president, for me, has to be a man of his own words. That he said that you will elect your own MMDCEs by 2018. And that's because he, as a lawyer and a former member of parliament, knows that 2431 doesn't need a referendum. So it could have been changed for us to elect our MMDCs. And then we wouldn't have had to wait for 9 months. And then once you elect your MMDC, he knows or she knows that they are accountable to you. As it stands now, MMDCs do not feel accountable to the people.
That's right.
Once they are in the good books of the president, finish. Once the president likes them, finish. They don't care. They can drive by the people in the community and not roll down and not stop. You can insult him and abuse him, or you can say he's a lazy person, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't care because the president likes him or likes her. You get the point?
Yeah.
So, but if you elect them, means that they will have to come to you to canvass for votes. And once they come to you to canvass for votes, they must put something on the table in terms of a social contract with you. And if that social contract is not achieved by the time they are done with their 2-year, 4-year tenure, you have a right to say, you said you will do A, B, C, D, you couldn't do it, so go away, like we do to the MPs.
That's right.
Like we do to the assembly members. Then it is there. But now they are not accountable to us. They don't feel obliged to even give us what is deserving of us. Look at this morning, Crow is close to the place where there's a gaping hole in the middle of the road. But the MCU knows that if President Akufo-Addo is happy with me,
what's my own?
Why shall I fear? Why shall I shy? I shall not shy. Why shall I shy? I shall not shy. I mean, he has nothing to shy about. Why shall I shy? I shall not shy.
Fellow Ghanaians, one primary goal of the Constitution was to decentralize the structure of governance in Ghana so the government would be brought closer to the people. One fundamental barrier to the realization of this goal has to do with the ramifications of Article 55, Clause 3 of the Constitution, which currently bars political parties from involvement in district assembly elections and local government. The attempt I made in 2019 to repeal this provision and allow for the participation of political parties in local government was aborted because of the lack of a broad national consensus when the opposition NDC signaled its inability to back the repeal. It was and continues to be my view that the repeal or modification of an entrenched clause of the Constitution should attract widespread support to make it acceptable and healthy for the body politic. We should further bear in mind the strong attachment of the Ghanaian people to multi-party democratic elections. On the average, the turnout for national elections in the Fourth Republic has been 72%, one of the highest in the world, whilst the turnout for the allegedly non-partisan local government election has always hovered around 30%. I've said it before, and I'll repeat it. I will continue to work for an extensive national consensus on this issue. And should such a consensus be attained for the repeal of Article 55, Clause 3 of the Constitution, and an agreement reached for political parties to participate in and sponsor candidates for election to district assemblies, at any point during my remaining tenure of office as President of the Republic, the matter will be brought back again to the front burner of our public discourse for the necessary action.
The last
We'll take a break at this point. Just so you know, we will bring back this conversation tomorrow. An extended version will include the National Commission on Civic Education. We had programmed them to be part of our show today, but unfortunately, they couldn't be part of our show today. But tomorrow, hopefully, we'll get the NCCA to join us, some civil society organizations as well. But again, we ask you, the local level elections are coming, district assembly elections. Will you vote? Why will you go and vote? Will you not vote? Why won't you go and vote? We'll return from the break. We'll pick your calls and you tell us why you will either go and vote or not vote. See you shortly after this break.
Get ready for the most exciting event of the year. It's the 3FM All-Wine Party. Join us on the 28th of December at the beautiful La Palm Royal Beach Hotel, starting at 7 p.m. Dress to impress in your finest all-white attire and be part of the ultimate celebration of the season. Live musical performances from some of the hottest artists in GH, fantastic DJs on rotation, and unforgettable moments await you at the 3FM All-White Party. Save the date and be there for an incredible night of fun and entertainment at the ultimate party this season. It's the official Christmas 3FM All-White Party on December 28th
I pull up on the
at
feature,
La Palm Royal
screaming
Beach Hotel
hallelujah.
at 7 p.m. Call 0531